What links Happy Hardcore with hot sauce and live streaming? Don't ask me how we got to that link. Come on, let's learn something about Brisk. So this is my third video now, and things are slowly starting to come together. I've moved things around in the studio, and I am my green screen a little bit more as well. Try and get rid of some of them dark spots to get it as good as it can be. I want to say a quick thanks for all the comments and likes in the last video, and some more on the Styles video too. I appreciate all your comments, and I'll reply to every one of you. Had some great suggestions as well for artists that I should look into. Well, I've got news. Scott Brown's an artist I've had on the list since the very beginning, and I think he's someone who'd be really interesting to look into because he seems to have been on the grind since the very beginning. Thanks to John for the suggestion. I'm not going to keep you hanging. Scott Brown is coming next month, so click the subscribe button and the notification bell because I know you're going to want to stick around for that. Pixie is still coming. I've just got a few logistical issues that I need to address first. More on that to follow. But in the meantime, you might as well click that like button before we crack into what you came for. You know all the other stuff by now. And yes, there is a DJ mix over at Mixcloud, and it's pretty stompy, I'll tell you. There's a link tree in the description with all the destinations of where you can find me. Now, are you ready? Because whether you remember the Club Kinetic days of the mid-90s, you bought Bonkers 17 just because it had taken him so long to do, or if over the past few years you followed him from over the internet, I'm about to take you on a journey spanning nearly 4 decades. This is Paul, who by day does a job that for the life of me, I can't confirm what that job is. He's 50 years old and celebrated his 50th birthday this year with his good mate Joel and a good chunk of the internet. Originally from Southampton in England, Paul Nineham has been rocking the rave scene since 1993. But his story goes back earlier than that. Back before we knew him as DJ Brisk, Paul was massively involved in the early hip-hop scene. He was a breakdancer and into graffiti, with his tag being Brisk, which is, in the end, where the DJ name came from. Paul started buying hip-hop records with his pocket money, which is why most of his 10,000 plus vinyl record collection is now really early hip-hop. With his friend DJ Betts, he used to make a weekly early morning trip to central London to visit Red Records and their mate Frankie Valentine, who would always have a big bag of records for them to check out. Then house music started to make its way to the shores of England from Chicago, followed by acid house, and the UK soon exploded into a fusion of breakbeat and early acid. Paul would go to the raves and see the DJs playing and think to himself, I want to do that. So he started to put himself out there and got to work, but it wasn't until 1993 when Brisk broke into the rave scene. Some of his first gigs were at small clubs dotted around the south coast, such as the Escape Room in Southampton, which later became known as Rhino, and Remix in Bournemouth. While the clubs may have been small, Brisk noted in an interview that the crowds were always more than well up for it. When the rave scene fractured into jungle and hardcore, Paul found himself playing a mixture of music from all around the globe. At home, he would be mixing UK breaks with European and US techno, adding a touch of the dark stuff, and when he did, he found the energy of mixing those styles really brought his sets together. In 1992, Brisk gained his first gig at Club Kinetic after sending them a few mixtapes, old school. He was booked to play the second room, and soon after got a repeat booking. When the second booking came, he was asked to play the main room, and after that night, he was offered a Friday night residency that lasted until 1996. He recalls that one of the most memorable nights from that period was his birthday bash, where he played to 3,000 people alongside greats such as Carl Cox, Slipmatt and the late Stu Allen. I read a lot about shenanigans going on during those 4 years at Club Kinetic, including antics between Brisk and his wife in the shower of the green room, with Brisk ending up with, well, let's just say a splattered t-shirt for his DJ set that night. In 1996, with Hamilton Dean, also known as DJ Ham, he started the underground record label Next Generation Records as an outlet for the Purse productions, and then in 1997 had to form a second label, Blatant Beats, because they had too much material to release on one label. In 1999, the Purse started a third label, Stimulant Records, as a further outlet for the Purse hard dance tracks under the alias Stimulant DJs. I'm not going to head too much into the Stimulant DJ side. Needless to say, there's a massive catalogue of music out there by the Purse, and across the three labels, they boast over 600 titles. Seems like a good time to say I realise it's a bit weird doing a video about Brisk without Ham. Let me explain. You see, while making this video, I discovered that Brisk classes himself as a DJ first and a producer second. In fact, he admits himself that he doesn't really enjoy producing and only got into it because he realised that he needed to add some of his own music to make his DJ mixes unique. It does go some way to explaining why most of Brisk's releases are collaborations, and also part of the reason I didn't make this video about Brisk and Ham, as Ham has had a slightly different career focused more on breakbeat hardcore and drum and bass. I think he deserves a video all of his own, and if that's something that interests you, let me know in the comments. Anyway, let's get back to the video. In addition to his residencies and other events for Club Kinetic, Brisk performed at a lot of the big name events at the time, including Helter Skelter, Slamming Vinyl, Dreamscape, Vibalite and Hardcore Heaven. He was a big name in the happy hardcore scene, and still is really. He appeared so much on the Bonkers compilations, with collaborative tracks such as Rock the Beat and everyone's favourite Eye Opener. Funnily though, it took 16 releases of Bonkers before in 2007 Brisk was asked with Ham to record a DJ mix for the 17th instalment. The 90s was a great era for the genre, and something that really made it special can be summed up quite nicely by Brisk himself. He says it musically represented a time of innovation and development for the hard dance music scene as a whole. Producers were trying out new sounds, ideas and concepts to ultimately birth a number of subgenres and countless anthems and events that people still talk about to this day. Brisk built on the work that he'd done in the 90s by doubling down in the 2000s and working extremely hard. He wrote reviews for Mixmag, continued his work with the 3 labels, and even ventured into the hot sauce business. In 2006, he had a show on Galaxy FM, including guests such as Cyan Unknown, UFO, Darwin, Al Storm, and Gamma. Did a video on Gamma and Dougal actually last month if you want something to finish your brew to after this video. Brisk continued into the 2010s, being somewhat of a dominant force in the happy hardcore scene and beyond, as he showcased his ability across a multitude of genres. He played around the world at events in Japan, Europe, Canada and Australia, somewhere he seemed to really enjoy being, as you'll see soon. Back home, he worked with Tidy Records on some of their events as part of the hardcore arena and performed at other events for Hardcore Heaven, Hardcore Till I Die, Raver Baby and United Dance. Paul also won a few awards around this time, including Best Hardcore Techno DJ at the 2009 Hardcore Heaven Awards, with Brisk and Ham's Next Generation podcast receiving Best Podcast and Radio Show in the 2010 Hardcore Heaven Awards. Then in 2013, he made an announcement on his site djbrisk.com that very few saw coming. The UK was about to lose one of its hardcore legends, as Brisk was relocating to Australia. His wife, originally from Melbourne, wanted to study to become a paramedic, something that she couldn't do here in the UK. So they moved to Melbourne and lived there for 14 months before moving to Brisbane, where they live now. That's when things got really exciting for Paul. Being so far from his home, family, friends and fans meant that he needed to come up with a creative way to output his talents. He mainly did events around Japan, Canada and Australia, nipping home every now and then for a few gigs back in the UK. So in the age of dawning technologies like live video streaming, Brisk took to Facebook in 2017, way before it was popular, and began to stream his live shows over the internet with a vision that if he could make it look and sound the best it could be, he would be happy. Well, they say you're always your biggest critic. I am for sure. On November 11th, 2017, he embraced technology again to stream a DJ set from his home in Australia live to big screens at Club Kinetic in Stoke-on-Trent. After 4 years on Facebook, Brisk found the technical difficulties of streaming on a platform that at the time wasn't geared up to quality live performances, made it increasingly counterproductive to his brand and to the concept that he was developing. The decision was made and Brisk moved to Twitch, a decision that he's never looked back from, as the platform provides exactly what he was looking for, a community. But he did have to start again, pretty much from scratch, so he got his head down and got to the grind. And does he grind? He streams on average 5 days a week, playing a mixture of house, trance, breakbeats, drum and bass, techno, and of course hardcore, on a Sunday as part of his hardcore radio show, The Brisk Selection. So Brisk retired to Australia and then became a Twitch streamer, right? I would say he's a bit more than just a Twitch streamer, and I'll show you why. On June 29th, 2020, Brisk was invited to the Twitch Partner Program, which allowed him to create a team. The team is now well known around the circuit as Team Brisk, and it has a roster of around 200 artists from around the globe who are all very talented in their own art. Yes, art. Not only are there a lot of DJs in the pool across a whole range of genres, Brisk also has art shows and ASMR streamers. These are the tingle gloves. In his team. From what I read, watched, listened to and generally consumed about Team Brisk, it feels a lot like the old style rave of love between creative people, where support is shared amongst the group. It's something that you don't really see as much in this modern day, with everything being snapshots of moments on social media. As part of his own live shows on Twitch, he ran an idea called Tunes and Chat, where he would sit in a chair in front of the camera, listening to bangers and chatting with his community. The episodes I watched in the making of this video gave me something of a feeling of a modern day pirate radio. Not saying what he's doing is illegal, that's a different topic. More that it was a DJ, in this case Brisk, playing tunes and emceeing over the top of the music. Where it gets a bit more up to date is the visual element of the show, with live chat between DJ and listeners, or in this case, watchers. Is that not a bit creepy? It was a really cool concept, I thought, and I learned a little bit about Paul through those videos, which are available on Brisk's channel on YouTube. Another big part of his growth in the online streaming world has been his big name collaborations, such as Kutski and Searle, who lives relatively near to Brisk now, which is resulting in a few live streams together, including Brisk's big 50th birthday bash this year. That's all fine for anyone who wants to watch him on the TV or mobile phone, but what if you want to see him live? The last I heard was on one of his tunes and chat sessions, and although he's a firm believer in never say never, Team Brisk is what he's focusing on right now, and he really enjoys being able to promote and be a collaborative partner with talent across the globe. I read a quote in an interview from 2017 when I started to look into Brisk, and I thought it was quite fitting to kind of explain how a man who started in hip-hop, became an absolute legend in the hardcore domain, was now playing a plethora of genres on the internet. The hardcore scene and electronic music in general is always evolving. Music changes constantly and falls in and out of fashion and shoe. Hardcore has had its ups and downs and twists and turns, but as a DJ and artist, it's up to you what you play and or produce. If you don't like the current trend or style, then don't play it. It's pretty simple. I only play music I like personally. Why waste your time on anything else? It's all subjective, and that's one of the best things about it. You still here? Nice one for that. So that's another artist that I really enjoyed learning about. And by the time this video airs, I'll have already started the Scott Brown one. Looking forward to that one, but how hard can I go? Had a similar issue with Brisk, because one thing I didn't really touch on in the video is that there's a darker, harder side to Brisk, who's a keen advocate of gabba and such. I mean, you've got to guess it with the name, that he likes the pace to be a bit nippy. I like it hard myself, but I didn't know how well that'd go with you guys and my mix over on Mixcloud. Let me know in the comments before I get to recording the Scott Brown mix. Do you want it happy? Do you want it hard? Do you want me to go from happy to hard? Maybe you don't care about the mix and you're just here to learn about people. That's cool too. I'd appreciate if you did hit the subscribe and like button for me. Keeps that word spreading on YouTube here so we can build our own little community, just like Brisk did. If you haven't finished that brew yet, then grab one of these videos over here and I'll catch you next time.